But I'm on a time crunch because you're probably gonna see this outfit a couple times. Ignore what's going on my little chair. Okay? Okay, I'm trying to look for something and I'm convinced it's over there. So maybe I should move over a little bit. Maybe you can't see the floor. I don't have all the answers, is what I'm saying. I wanted to come on here more glam than I actually am, but then I poke the shit out of my damn eye. And this is what we're gonna have to do because yeah, life. All right, whooping ass and taking names. So I am planning to sit here and film 6 times. And I might have to take a break and eat something. I think I should because I don't want to be just out here feeling like I can't, live. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. Welcome to the mid-year freakout tag. This is a tag. I think I do it every year. I think I've been doing it almost every year since I've started YouTube. I think it's interesting that I'm doing it as the date is June 11th because typically I don't do it until July. And I'm like, hey y'all, it's late, whatever, whatever. But here we are, we're just starting. And if you see me looking, let me put it more in front of myself so I'm not looking like that. But I've already wrote my answers down because I'm that girl and I'm prepared. Prepared! So, the best book I ever I'll have all the questions in the description below. And sorry if some of my answers are repeat. It is what it is. I'm going to give a little synopsis about the books that I'm talking about, but not going into too much depth because I've already talked about them on my channel. But I also want to kind of convince you to read or maybe think about reading a book. Maybe what's good for me is not good for you, and maybe what's not good for me is good for you. Right. You're following what's going on. So for the mid freakout tag, it is a tag that was created. I forget who created it. I'm so sorry. I forget who. I think it was Shanna. Somebody created this beautiful tag. It was not created by me, okay? And this tag is really just to check in as booktubers. We check in the middle of the year and see how things have been going. I'm very proud to say that I've only read 28 books this year because I just don't want to be fast reading books anymore. I just want to slow down and take my time. So that's pretty much what this is about. Let's start with the first question. Best book you've read so far. The best book I read so far is a book called On Sundays She Picked Flowers. This is a horror novel. I read it a couple months ago, and it follows the story of this young woman who's been severely neglected and abused by the women in her life. I will say just her mom, but her aunts are complicit as well with their raggedy ass. And when an altercation happens, she's forced then to move out, go on her own, and kind of figure out who she is and who she wants to be. But there's this entity surrounding her, and she keeps feeding it and thinking that there is a natural balance, but this entity has other plans. So you continue to follow the book as more horrific things happen between her and this entity, and then there's just some weird animalistic versus human thing that happens in the book. It's really hard to explain without me seriously spoiling it. And while you're also reading the book, you get to see her kind of heal and take back her power and really be stuck in the mind frame of I was abused before. People treated me bad before. People lied to me. People were deceitful. And just because you claim that you love me, another character, doesn't mean that I'm going to just accept love. Love needs to be action. Love doesn't look like this. Love looks like that. And she's very serious about protecting her peace, even if she got to shoot a motherfucker. And that's what I loved about her character. But the book was done really well. It was very eerie. The setting was really good. The story development. It was everything to me. It was the best book so far of 2026 to me, and I don't see another book topping it. I did read some books that I feel like came close to being a 5 star, but I think this was probably my only 5 star in a novel so far this year. Number two, the best sequel I've read this year was the name of the series, I think, is the Castle Knoll series. And the first book in that series is called How to Seal Your Own Faith. It follows the story of this young woman who was called to her aunt's house, and her aunt has like buku money. You understand me? Buku money. And she was called to go to her aunt's house because her aunt wanted to talk to her about something. So she gathers her things, talk to her mom about it, and go to her aunt's house. And she's really having a lot of internal battles of or internal conflict of how she wanted to show up at her aunt's house, because without her aunt, her mom and her livelihood is at jeopardy. So she's trying her best to make sure that she impress upon her aunt that she needs that help via financial stability and financial support. And when she gets to her aunt's house, Auntie is dead. I mean, upon arrival. And then Auntie's lawyer comes and he's like, hey, we've all gathered here. I know you all want to talk about the will, but y'all ain't getting iota of coin unless you solved who killed Auntie. So you're going through the story of her putting it upon herself, not because she needs money, but because she has never really had a relationship with this aunt. And she kind of feels like she needs to solve what happened to her aunt. And she also needs to figure out who this woman was. So as you're reading the book, you're watching her kind of be like some kind of amateur sleuth. There's a small cozy element to this series, but it's more based on like an amateur sleuth because there is some things that's happening in the book that I don't think will qualify as a cozy mystery at all. Even though it's not the most riveting story I ever read, it is so entertaining and I can't stop reading it. I already finished book 2. I'm already ready for book 3. That's just really how I feel. I think I'm going to keep reading this series and see what happens. The next question is, new release you haven't read yet but want to. There is an author called Johnny Compton, and I've been trying to read all of his books. I read his first book, The Spite House. I think the second book was Devils Kills Devils, and then there's a book that just came out called Dead First. And even though I'm only 25%, so this is kind of me cheating on this list, but I'm 25% in, and I feel like this might be my favorite of the author. And Dead First follows a story of this woman who has this ability, and she is invited to this house to kind of help the patron of this house solve a mystery of why he cannot die. And it's done in such a unexpectedly gory way, but there's also spirits who are trying to either prevent her from figuring out what's going on or help her to figure out what's going on. And I'm not really sure if they are faux or not. It's hard to tell at this time, and I think that's what's really making me like the book, because I'm feeling like a lot of people is unreliable, including her. So I'm ready to really get deeper into the book, and I'm buddy reading this with someone who already read it, but I hope I get done with it by the end of the month. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. This is no surprise to anyone, not even to me, and that is Maisiewood by Tanana Reeve Dew. I can't wait to read that book. I'm excited for it. Tanana Reeve Dew can write a post-it note, and I'm like, riveting, 5 stars, yes, yes. And I've repeated exactly that line several times throughout my channel, so I'm very excited to read Maisiewood by Tanana Reeve Dew. Let me pull it up so I can give you a synopsis. So this is a follow-up to The Reformatory with flashbacks to Johnny's grandmother, who brushed shoulders with giants like Lena Horne Clark Gable and Hattie McDaniel. This novel explores three generations, beginning with Maisel Washington's life as a young actress. 50 years after Maisel's death, Johnny will discover the secret she kept and nurtured since she was a child when she had a dark wish come true. The monster lurks outside Maisiewood, hidden for generations, and Johnny brought his family to its hunting ground. Yes. Period. There. What else is there to say? I will be reading. My biggest disappointment. This is number 5. Ooh, I was really rough to say. So, one of them is a book that it's a part of Books and Lala Kayla's book club, which I'm really sad about. I think it just was too fever dreamy, and I tend to not like books that have that element because it's hard for me to follow if it's very confusing and everyone is unreliable. And that book is called Addition by Katie Kitamura. And then the other sad disappointment was The Secret World of Maggie Gray by Granger. And even though I think it's one of my biggest disappointment reads of the year, I will be reading book 2 to see if some of my issues in book 1 was resolved or something, because book 1 it's really hard for me to read books that have repeated themes of Black women being harmed and misogyny being perpetuated by everybody. Don't matter how you identify, it's being perpetuated by everybody. So it's really hard for me to read those books. Some people can read those, could take that out of the book and just look at the bare bones of the book and like, wow, this is a great book. We have Black fairies, Black vampires, Black sirens, Black mermaids. That it's a fantasy. They're in this type of like witchery school that's been hidden, that's called the underground. Like, it's so dope, the theory of it and like the bones of the book. But the way that the characters interacted with each other was in such a harsh way that sorry, that's not what I like to read in books typically. Every once in a while I can read a book like that, especially if the book is identified as a horror. I can understand why those plot points are in a book like that, but in a book like this that is categorized as a Black fantasy, I don't know. I just felt like there were certain choices made while writing that book that really shook me. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but I love the premise of the book. That's why I want to read book 2. And if book 2 continues on the path that book 1 is on, I'm sorry, there's a DNF in the current future. So it is what it is. Some books is for you, some books is not. Biggest surprise for me is a book called With Love from Harlem by Rashonda Tate, because this is following the story of this jazz singer who I've just never really heard of. And her name is Hazel. Hold on. I think it's Hazel Scott, but I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. Yep. It's a historical fiction by Rashonda Tate, following the story or the reimagining of the life of Hazel Scott, who was a phenomenal Black pianist in the 40s. And as you continue to read about her life, you understand not only do like the Black church fail her in so many ways, her raggedy, trifling, no good, I want to punch him in the nether regions ass husband did as well. And I think that Rashonda did such a great job with writing this book that it reminded me how much I love reading historical fiction. And I think it's really cool that I think it's also really cool that my TikTok, or a little TikTok I did about the book, reached the author and she really enjoyed my review. So shout out to you, Rashonda. I'm going to read more historical fiction by you for sure, because I was not expecting to like that book as much as I did. It was written very well. I love the creative liberties that you took. I love how you really set up the scene of what Harlem looked like at that time and all the players that was around Hazel Scott, I loved when you talked about Billie Holiday and Nina Simone and James Baldwin. It just really felt homey. It really felt like Harlem Renaissance, like the emergence of Black people really owning in and prioritizing their art in a way that we don't typically see in modern history. So I just really, really loved that book. My favorite new author or debut or new author to me, again, would be Rashonda Tate because she's a new author. I've never read from her before. So I will be reading for more Rashonda Tate. And then newest fictional crush, this always gets me because I've said this in every mid-year freakout tag I've ever done, is that I don't really be crushing on nobody. People crush on me. I know, I'm just kidding, but I don't really be crushing on nobody. So, especially fictional folks, you know? So I had to really think about, like, what character could I date? And I'm sorry, Hades. Catch me in the underworld. Laura Olympus. I mean, at your mama. Don't at me. Okay? Don't at me. But Hades, yeah, because when Hades was ready to kill Apollo, I am reading the book like, kill him now. Because he needs to be, I'm sick of Apollo and his bullshit. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him. So that's how I feel about that. Hades for sure. Newest favorite character, I would think it's Aunt Frances in the Castle Knowles files because like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but I've already read book 1 and book 2, and I think book 3 either just came out or is about to come out. But Aunt Frances was really in everybody's business. She was nosy as hell. And not only was she nosy as hell, she was writing down everything about everybody. She had notebooks and notebooks of what could have been what do they say? Incriminating shit in all of these books. I'm like, lady, you sat here into your old age and you were like, I saw John at the bushes with Susan, knowing damn well he shouldn't have been at the bushes with Susan because where was Carol, his wife? Kind of action. You wrote about everybody nosy. And you know what? I understand that. I understand that because one of the reasons why I wear sunshades when the sun ain't out. My sunglasses when the sun ain't out is because I'm people watching. I too am nosy. So I relate to her. Come on, auntie. Young friend on the ones and twos. I love that for her. But also it got her, you know what I'm saying? So there's a line of nosiness. You could be nosy to a nosy or be nosy 6 feet under or in somebody's urn. Talking about ash me up before you go. You understand me? Anyway, I'm getting beside the point. So the next question is number 10, book that made you cry, saddest book you've read. I have a couple of them. So the later volumes of Laura Olympus really made me emotional because I felt that Persephone, even in her grief and her sadness, had two characters who really was trying to support her, and that the support that they gave her really made me tear up. And then the next Mrs. Parrish really made me tear up too, because to have a man be this obsessed with you, seek help. I always feel bad, fictionally and in real life, when women are the target of a man's ego and he will do anything to either possess her or kill her because he feel like it's her or nobody else. That type of thing it really makes me really sad and angry, and sometimes it makes me rethink about my stance on gun laws. And that's all I'm gonna say. And then another book that made me cry because it just was told, the sequence in which the book was told was masterfully done. And also these stories are like, yeah, I can 100% imagine something like this happening. and that was Burned Down Master's House. And I just was like, wow, like that one made me emotional. A Now number 11, a book that made you happy. Witch Hat Atelier Volume 1 and 2. I was not expecting to love it as much. But yeah, girl, let's figure this out. How is that girl gonna get her powers? And also, I hate that one of the characters keep like kind of putting her in harm's way, but I also love how her mind think and how she's like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to problem solve and we're going to figure this out. So I love that. And I love how even though that one character is not really on her side, it doesn't stop her from being kind. And I just really love that. Number 12 is favorite book to film adaptation you saw this year. I can't say favorite book to film series adaptation I've saw this year. Well, I did watch Practical Magic 1 on my birthday. Loved it. Loved it down. But I am a Practical Magic fan. I am. And Alice Hoffman, even though I felt like the book was mediocre. Between me and you, and the movie was better. I'm sorry. Add somebody else. But what I suspect would be like the best book to movie adaptation of this year is Witch Hat Atelier. Anime just came out and I really want to watch that soon. So I'm hoping that I can get to do that and I'll tell you guys if I like it better, whatever. I hope to tell y'all that soon. And then favorite review you've written this year, booktube version, favorite video you've done so far this year. I have two favorite videos that I've done. One is when I talk about how Black booktubers are disappearing and my analysis on that. And then the other one is when I reviewed Brandy's memoir. I also want to say Olivia Catastrophe has recently left Black Booktube, and I just feel like, I don't know, I was emotional and I did cry because it's really sad when I see Black women leave the book spaces on YouTube, and stuff is just, it's so fucking hard coming on this internet as a Black book content creator, and harder than I think a lot of people recognize, especially if you've been making content on this channel for a long time, like on your channel for a long time. And Olivia's been making content for, I think, almost 10 years, if not 10 years. So it's really hard when you're like working, and you don't want to pay attention to the numbers. Like I even deleted the app, so I don't be knowing what's going on with my numbers. I'm currently shocked of how much fun I've been having on BookTube recently, and I haven't had a thought of wanting to quit recently, but you also want people to watch your channel. So when people don't watch your channel and engage in your channel, like you see other people who started when you started, it can be a little discouraging. So having Olivia talk about her experience being on YouTube really brought tears to my eyes, and I hope that she is doing well. She did say that she's still going to be posting content on Instagram, but it's sad to see people who was here when I first started, virtually none of them are here anymore. There's some people who are still here and still do content here and there who are Black, but it's really giving slim pickings out here in these streets. And then number 14 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. This is kind of like a two-parter, but not really. It's just like an extending. So Gabby Burton wrote a book called How to Steal a Throne, which I really liked that book. And that book, she came to Minnesota and she had a author like event, and I went to it. And that book is just really beautiful. I wish that I had it like on me to show you. Sorry, I had it. So this is the book right here. Very beautiful. I love the hidden part of her eyes is very much matched the vibe of the book. So I thought this book was very beautiful. Also, turquoise kind of green leaning colors are my favorite. So I really, really, really love that. So shout out to that. And then the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Honestly, Lore Olympus, volume 10 and 11, which are the last volumes in the series. Tananarive Due, Maisie Wood book. I think there's a Stephen Graham Jones book coming out this year. I need to read that one as well. There's a couple books that's coming out. Typically, I just be reading whatever comes up. That's what I'm going to read, honestly. So I don't really have like a TBR. I try not to be a TBR girl. Just try to read, when I can. And sometimes it's a double-edged sword, though, because I'd be like, oh my God. When people ask me, what are you anticipating? I'd be like, I don't know. And I wish I had like a folder in my phone that I can just like think about the things. But, it is what it is. I just be living by the seat of my pants, really. So there's a lot of books coming out. I want to read them. I can't think of them all on top of my head. I literally sat here and tried to think about them and I couldn't. So I think everybody should be doing the mid-year freakout tag, whether you are a content creator or not. Let me know if any of these books that I've mentioned are books that you've read, and if you agree. Let me know your biggest disappointment in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.